to happen to you? What is your motivation for saying that? Okay, because you love them. Yeah? Okay, yes, okay. I won't disagree with that. Yeah, go on. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If someone says to you, don't do that, because it's really bad, would I be wrong in saying that they're trying to make sure that you get how serious the circumstance is? If someone warns you about something and they've told you, given you a message about hope or whatever the message is, but then they turn around and say to you, if you don't, these are warnings. They're driving home how serious this message is. Sorry, can you just wait for the mic, sis, because we can't hear everyone. Yeah, thank you. I know, yes, I know. We all have to go. Look, I've got the mic in front of me. I can't get away from it. Yeah, go on.
It's like you've been doing something all along. Yeah, you don't see the danger of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the next person may see the danger. You keep on doing it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, something is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that person see it long time before you see it.
Yes.
So what you don't see, somebody else saying it.
Yeah.
So it's that you keep on doing it, you keep on, woe to you.
Yeah. So you warn them, innit? Because you can see it, they can't see it, but you warn them because you can see what's going to happen.
Because it's got to be danger.
Yeah, you can see what's going
at the next end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So that word, wow,
whoa,
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah. Seriously,
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyone else? Out of context, he said.
Yeah, it's not to do with the lesson. As that word woe, it's W-O-E.
Yeah, in my, it is, yeah.
It means like wow, but that's W-O-E.
No, it's not wow, no, definitely not wow, no. That's a different, completely different thing. Woe, warning, woe to you. Jesus used it a lot, didn't he? Yeah, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. How you tithe this and you tithe that, and so you should do, but you don't know the weightier parts of the law, so on and so forth, you know. So yeah, absolutely. Mike, please.
Who was he addressing that to? I'm trying to say
I think it's quite
Oh, dear. Who was he addressing that to? Have we covered that already, possibly?
you may have.
The Gentiles you're talking about? And
One sentence. Who were his audience?
yes, covered that. Who was his audience? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we covered that. We said it was the Gentiles. All that beautiful build-up, that voice that you just projected all for the way stage. Okay. Okay, all right then. Does that cover question 2 then? Are we all right with that, yeah? If you want, look, turn to the second paragraph of the Think About It. Let's look at that. Second paragraph of the Think About It. Let me know when you're there. In contrast to Matthew, yeah, that's the one. In contrast to Matthew. Let's see if that helps us, just wraps up, summarize this particular question. Are you there? So in contrast, I'll read it. In contrast to Matthew, who shows Jesus speaking from a mountainside with his eyes fixed on the multitude, Luke shows Jesus speaking from the plain with his eyes fixed on his disciples. Is this a discrepancy? Luke lists only 4 beatitudes and omits the qualifiers found in Matthew's account. He simply says the poor instead of the poor in spirit, and those who hunger instead of those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. The qualifiers in Matthew help us determine what kind of poverty and hunger Jesus has in mind, and they point to a deeper spiritual meaning. We said that before, didn't we, church? Yeah? And it says, in omitting them, Luke implies a tangible application, pointing to the economically poor, yeah, and hungry, and those who literally weep because of the brokenness of this world. Do you get that, church? This view is strengthened by Luke's insertion of the word now, setting present hunger and weeping against future fullness and laughter. And it says, this is a familiar biblical theme. The weeping that endures for a night is eclipsed by the joy that comes in the morning. Okay? And it also says, we note also that the 4 Beatitudes are followed by 4 woes, which are essentially the reverse of the Beatitudes listed. Luke doesn't want it lost on us that Jesus pronounces both blessings and cursings. He calls out those who seek after riches, who find comfort in food and pleasure, and those who trade the blessed life he offers for the world's best life now. Okay? So hopefully that summarizes the question, question 2. Okay, church? Let's move on then. In terms of thematic arrangement, how helpful is Luke's relocation of the golden rule? Remember we talked about the golden rule before, didn't we? We had a lesson on it, did we not? Yeah? So in terms of thematic arrangement, how helpful is Luke's relocation of the golden rule? So can I have a reader for Luke 6:20-26? Or have we just read that really? We haven't, haven't we? Let me read it, and then we go to question. That gives you time to think of your answer, okay? I'm going to read from Luke 6:20-26. 20 says, and he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you and when they exclude you and revile you and spurn your name as evil on the account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven, for so their fathers did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you shall be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for so their fathers did to the false prophets. Okay? So in terms of thematic arrangement, how helpful is Luke's relocation of the golden rule? Do you know what thematic arrangement is? Do you understand that term? I did put it on the chat. Sorry, I didn't mean to out anyone like that. Do you not see it? I spent all that time looking it up, studying it, writing it out, put it on the chat so everyone knows that when they come prepared. Okay, so let me read what I did put on the chat, or something similar to what I did put on the chat. Thematic arrangement is the organization of content based on common themes or ideas, rather than following through a strict chronological order. It groups materials by topics such as love, justice, or mercy to emphasize specific contexts or messages. So basically, when you do something in a theme, you take it and you put it all together so that the theme, everything in that particular, all the content fits that theme, okay? So what are we saying here is that Luke has taken, well, it depends on your viewpoint, we should come back to that later, but Luke has taken the golden rule, which is the rule that we studied about treat others as you want to be treated yourself, so on and so forth, okay? And he's moved it to fit into the bit that talks about love your enemies, okay? He's moved it there, put it there, because he sees that as that's all part of the same theme, yeah? So instead of doing it in chronological order or in the order that it was maybe originally spoken, he's moved it because he says that kind of fits well with love your enemies. Does that make sense? Yeah? So it's group the themes together, all right? It's the kind of thing you do maybe if you're preaching a sermon, okay, and you've got a couple of themes that you want to cover, depending on how you structure your sermon, but you've got a couple of themes that you want to cover within your sermon, and you might group certain scriptures together because they kind of fit the same theme. Does that make sense? Yeah, so when you're speaking, you're not going all over the place. You might be looking at love, mercy, justice, and all those kind of things. It's that kind of thing, yeah? Okay? Does that make sense? Does that help? So now I expect an answer, okay? So in terms of thematic arrangement, how helpful is Luke's relocation of the golden rule? How helpful is that? I hear silence. Do you think it fits then? That he moves it? Do you think it's fitting that he moves it there? Do you think it's relevant? Should we look at it? Let's look at it. 6:27, okay? Go to Luke 6, verse 27. Say amen when you're there. Good. Luke 6:27, I will read. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you and pray. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. To one who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from one who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, and do not demand them back. As you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But love your enemies and do good and lend. But love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great. And you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. Okay? Look at verse 31. Okay? Just have a quick read that to yourself. Quick read of that to yourself, verse 31. It says how helpful is Luke's relocation of the golden rule. Do you think it helps? Let's ask it that way. Do you think it helps you understand maybe more about how we should treat our enemies? Because that's the kind of question he's asking. Yeah? You say yes? Yeah? You think it does? Yeah? Okay? Because that's essentially what he's asking here. How helpful is Luke's relocation of the golden rule? Okay? Because this is all about how we treat others, isn't it? Okay? And that fits very well. I think it fits very well. I don't think it's misplaced in its relocation. I think it's entirely appropriate to have it in amongst when it talks about loving your enemies. Okay? Because if we treat our enemies as we would like to be treated, then that, for me, meets the commands that Jesus is giving us about how we should love our enemies. Yeah? With our enemies, he said. Who are our enemies? Is that your question? Who are your enemies? Who are your enemies? Do you have any? Yeah? Who are our neighbors? Who are our neighbors? In Jesus' terms, it's not the person that lives next door to you. No. Your neighbors, basically everyone. So who are your enemies? Oh, I don't know about everybody. I don't know if I go that far. I hope I'm not your enemy. Okay, yeah. Who are your enemies? Who do you think are your enemies, Brother Chester? Well, Brother Chester threw his voice then. Yeah, sorry? Okay, those who persecute you, wish badness about, revile you, yeah. Anyone who's against you, really. If he's not a friend, he's an enemy, isn't he, really, in a way, you could say. I didn't hear all of that, sorry. Is it online now? Okay.
Persecute you for righteousness' sake, it's got to be for your Christian belief.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
It can't be for a true fact. I hate you because you're black or because you wear glasses. It's just...
That can't be your enemy?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because of... Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So don't get too personal, man. Don't get too personal. Wow.
That sounds like Godfrey hating himself.
Can we go back to love thy neighbor? Wow. Wow, okay.
Oh, dear. No, it's not righteous, though,
Wow.
definitely. Yeah. So basically, enemies come in all shapes and sizes, all forms, don't they, really? Okay. All right, where were we then? Okay. Okay, so we've done... Go on.
Did we understand the idea of relocation?
The idea of relocation. So I did say about... In terms of... Yeah, so, okay, good point. So relocate from... So in Matthew's version of the Sermon on the Mount, okay, the golden rule appears where? Do you remember? Yeah, towards the end, isn't it? Yeah, okay, yeah. And so relocation just means like sort of, so if you, I guess if you believe, okay, if your understanding is that Matthew 5 doesn't include any, Matthew's version of the Sermon on the Mount does not have any relocation in it, that is actually written as it was spoken, okay, then the fact that Luke takes it and moves it from, say, the end to the beginning, to where it talks about love your enemies, means that it's been relocated, okay? It's been moved from its original position. That's what relocation means, okay? So maybe the way that it was spoken, okay? Let's say we accept that Luke wrote the Sermon on the Mount as it was spoken by Jesus, okay? And Luke, in his version of the Sermon on the Mount, has taken the golden rule and moved it to where we say love your enemies, because he feels from the theme's point of view, that's where it fits very well and it brings home that whole message. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay? Yeah? Godfrey, is that? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay then. Yeah? So, question 4 then. Okay? It says, read Luke 6, 39 to 45. How do these sayings of Jesus, which are not included in Matthew's version of the sermon, speak to Luke's passion in crafting his account? Okay? So read Luke 6, 39 to 45. And how do these sayings of Jesus, which are not included in Matthew's version of the sermon, speak to Luke's passion in crafting his account? Read Luke 6, 39, 45. I was going to read that for me then. Yes, if you don't mind.
He also told them a parable. Can the blind guide the blind? Won't they both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher. Thank you. I'll start again, shall I? He also told them a parable. Can a blind guide the blind? Won't they both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like his teacher. Why do you look at the splinter in your brother's eye, but don't notice the beam of wood in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, brother, let me take out the splinter that is in your eye, when you yourself don't see the beam of wood in your eye? Hypocrites! First, take the beam of wood out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the splinter, in your brother's eye. A good tree doesn't produce bad fruit. On the other hand, a bad tree doesn't produce good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. Figs aren't gathered from thorn bushes, or grapes picked from a bramble bush. A good person produces good out of the good stored up in his heart. An evil person produces evil out of the evil stored up in his heart. For his mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So the question is, how do these sayings, and it says which are not included in Matthew's version of the sermon. So it's asking about the ones that are not in Matthew's version of what we've just read. So we've got the blind leading the blind. Do you remember that? Yeah? That was just been read? Yeah? That's one of the sayings, okay? Comes from that. A disciple's like its teacher. Yeah? Okay? And the speck and the log. Yeah? Am I right in saying that those are not in Matthew's? Okay? So when you look at those, it's asking, how do these speak to Luke's passion in crafting his account? What are they talking about? Have a look at what the blind leading the blind. What is the warning in this, do you think, about the blind leading the blind? What's this about? What's Luke talking about here? Who are the leaders? Who is leading and who are they leading? The blind. When we talk about blind, we're talking about literally blind people?
Spiritually blind.
Yeah? Sorry? Blind people who can't see, lost their vision? Is that what we're talking about? So spiritually blind. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Would I be right in saying maybe misguided leaders? Yeah? Misguided leaders, the blind leading the blind? Yeah?
So you have to think about the audience. Then.
Yeah.
Who's in the audience when
Yeah.
you speak?
Yeah, that's right. So the Gentiles, yeah, we're talking about here, yeah? Is that the audience you're talking about here?
Well, there are Gentiles. Who else? Is there anybody else? Any groups of people? Normal people? Any
Yeah.
leaders?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
Pharisees? Any?
I mean, within there, yeah. Okay. So we're talking about misguided leaders there, the blind leading the blind, the spiritually blind leading those of us who are blind also, okay?
I think because Jesus is speaking to Jews, Jewish people, even though the letter is being sent to someone who is a Gentile.
Yeah.
Right. But the audience where Jesus is speaking at the time, they're all Jews. And I think, so it's the people who are present are very poor, probably a bit downtrodden because the Roman is in occupation. But then you have the Pharisees, they're pretty well off, they're well to do and
Yeah,
so on
that's
and so
right,
forth.
yeah.
And they're the ones who are leading the people.
Yeah.
And we know that there are instances where Jesus said, all that they bid you do, but do not according to their works.
Yeah.
And he also, in another scripture, calls them blind guys, doesn't he?
Yeah,
as
that's
well?
right, yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And what about Luke 6:40?
Oh, sorry. Could you say that again?
I just think that verse is about humility, about the disciples not being above his master,
Yeah.
and recognizing that even the master can be the servant, or learn from each other, really.
Yeah.
Because Jesus came, he's the king, he was the Son of God,
Yeah.
and yet he served.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the message that he's trying to portray there, that we, even leaders, can serve.
Okay.
And we're not,
Yeah. Okay. So so definitely a message above humility there, not the disciple to get above its teacher. But it says, but everyone when he's fully trained will be like his teacher. Yeah. Fully trained. So we're looking at, I think the message here, his passion here is about people growing, isn't it? I think his passion here is about people growing, being like the teacher, following the teacher, but having an attitude of growth where they want to develop and become like the teacher and become someone who is Christ-like. But I think the passion here that Luke is demonstrating is growth here, okay? Growth that comes through discipleship and that kind of thing. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah? And spec and log, was it 641, 42? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah? So what's this one talking about? Yes, but judge, yeah. What did you say, sister? Check yourself, yeah? Because that's about the plank, isn't it? Yeah, okay. But, and yeah, you said, Sister Marcia?
Being judgmental.
Yeah,
one
being
another.
judgmental, yeah.
We're quite happy to look at other people's issues
Yeah.
and not look within ourselves. And as a matter of fact, it's saying you're judging other people, but you're worse, worse condition that person that you're actually judging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look at yourself, yeah?
So is he saying don't judge or judge?
There's righteous judging, isn't there? There's judging for the right reasons, but this is like judgment for condemnation, isn't it? Condemning people without the full facts. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? The judgment.
So there's two judgments there then, isn't there? There's one where you make one of yourself. You
Yeah.
have to recognize it. Because he says, first of all,
Yeah.
take the splinter out of your...
Yeah. So that's like what they call it,
Self-examination.
self-examination, isn't it? Yeah.
But you
that's
still
what
make a
it's about.
judgment.
Still make a
Because
judgment.
you're weighing
yeah.
up between right
yeah,
and
yeah,
wrong,
right,
good
yeah,
and bad.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This would have been quite humorous, wouldn't it?
Quite what, sorry?
Humorous.
Go on.
Because you're talking about a speck, and then you're talking about, imagine one of these, the buildings that you have in your roof, the beams, one of those coming out your eye. the people would have thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
But it would have made the point.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
got a small splinter in your eye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the person's got a small splinter. You got a big beam coming out your eye, and you're trying to take the splinter.
Out to the other
It's
person's
quite
eye, yeah.
amusing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
yeah.
that'd have been.
I suppose, like you say, like I said, it makes the point, doesn't it?
It does,
and
yeah.
sometimes humour is a good way of getting a point across, isn't
absolutely.
it? Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Excellent. Any other points? So what's Luke really trying to drive home? What's the message he's really trying to drive home here? Would you say inner transformation is one of them? Well, especially when he says about the speck in your own eye, and he says, examine yourself.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And it's inner transformation. He wants us to be transformed from inside. It's not the outward things that we do. It's the inner transformation. Look at yourself. Yeah?
I was just going to say it's all about personal growth.
That's it, yes.
Personal awareness.
Yeah, yeah.
Being able to know yourself, understand yourself,
Yeah.
know where you are
Yeah.
in God
Yeah.
before you then start speaking or professing what's happening
Yeah.
outside. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think
It's
personal
really
growth is definitely 100% what we're looking at. Inner transformation, personal growth in terms of becoming more like Christ. That's what you're looking at, okay? We want to grow like the master teacher who is Christ, okay? Yes, there are going to be people along the way who are going to teach these things to us, but it's to become more like Christ, a personal growth, being open to that. And that's what I think the message there, that in this particular question anyway, which the point they're trying to get across is there's this inner transformation, there's this personal growth that Luke is passionate about, okay? Becoming more Christ-like in that. And that's one of the focuses that he's put on here, okay? Any other points, church? Sorry, did someone say something then? Okay, then. Shall we move to question 5 then? Okay, to which version of the sermon are you most drawn? Luke's or Matthew's? Must we choose between them, or can we hold an appreciation for both? Question to you. What do you say? Which version of the sermon are you most drawn?
I tend to be drawn to Matthew's, and that could be because of familiarity and the way it flows with from the beginning, chapter 5, going through to all the blesseds and so on and so forth. So there's more of a familiarity to me,
To you, yeah.
with that, and I tend to be drawn more to that than to Luke's.
Okay, thank you very much. Someone else?
Would that question affect the first question you asked, which perspective we're looking at it at, either from Matthew's perspective or from Luke's perspective? As from Luke saying that
So you're saying
Yeah.
that this
Because-
question...
Because the question was asked earlier when it wasn't here. Did we say that it was two different accounts? Or are we saying there's one account with perhaps two different...
And you think that might have a bearing on
Yeah.
whether you appreciate one over the other?
Yeah.
How so?
Because if you say it was Matthew's and he was present at the time, then yeah, if you're saying it was Luke's and you would suggest that he's repeating it after the event and after the
Okay.
event, it could have, but it has somehow watered down. It's not, the information is still in there, but to receive it firsthand from Matthew would give me personally
for you
a better
personally,
understanding, yeah.
Because Matthew, go with Matthew because you say that's like a first-hand
but
account.
then we also said Matthew was speaking directly to Jews who had a knowledge of Christ, whereas, Matthew account.
So you say Matthew, okay.
Because I have a little account.
Okay.
Sorry, Conrad's coming.
Thanks. I was going to say, if the message is the same, does it matter?
That's a good point. Very good point. Does it matter? If it's a consistent message you're saying, isn't it? The message is the same. Consistent message, does it matter?
It doesn't matter who's telling it. No, the message is the same. So
Yeah. Truth is truth, right? Yeah? No matter who says it. Okay?
But the question is, which one are you drawn to?
Yeah.
That's the question. Which one do you find yourself more drawn to?
There is say, but must we choose between them? I suppose that's the other half of the question, which is kind of like back to what you're saying, isn't it? Because the question says, I asked the first part, so which version of the sermon are you most drawn, Luke's or Matthew? Okay? And you kind of went to the second, which is not a problem. Must we choose between them? Which is pretty much what you're saying, Mac, isn't it? Really, isn't it? For me personally, I like the Matthew one. I think part of what God's saying is familiarity, but one other thing is because of the amount of detailing that is in it. I think that, to me, is one of the reasons why I'm drawn to Matthew's, because of the level of detail in it. There's a lot of teaching in there. There's a lot that I can learn from. I'm not saying I can't learn from Luke's, but there's a lot of detail that I like from Matthew's. But I'm not saying that at exclusion of Luke in any way whatsoever. Yeah? So must we choose between them, or can we hold an appreciation for both? I was going to say not bother, but because it's you, I said go carry on.
I would say we appreciate both because we do learn and grow from both.
I suppose we could say that both give us the big picture, right? Yeah? Both of them give us like a big picture, okay? Would we say that both are inspired writings? Yes. Sorry? That both versions are inspired writings, inspired by God? Yeah? Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah? So that makes them both valuable, right? Yeah? Absolutely. Okay? And I guess overall, because we are Bible scholars, we look at the whole Bible and all that's in it, yeah, to help us to understand. So we look at Matthew's, we look at Luke's, we put them together. That gives us two different perspectives of the same sermon, okay? But it helps us understand because it's from different perspectives, because it's the same thing. Like Max says, it's the truth, okay? It's all the truth. An example that might help us to understand this. I think you probably don't need an example, but I'll probably say it anyway. But imagine two friends went out on a trip, okay? Went on a trip together, okay? A trip abroad, all right? Two friends. And they came back and they were talking, and you were talking to them about it, okay? And one friend, you asked them what the trip was like, and they told you about the scenery, about the mountains, how peaceful it was. They did all of that. It's like, yeah, that's what they really got from it. That's their version of the trip, yeah? One friend. You go to the other friend who was on the same trip, okay? And that friend, okay, talks about all the different fun things that they did, you know, how the sea, and they did activities, and they went in the water, and went in the pool, and whatever they did, okay? Both of those are talking about the same event, yes? But they're talking about it from different perspectives, right? But what does that help us understand about the trip? The whole thing. We put them all together, and then we get the whole thing, don't we? We get that there was a peaceful scenery and all the mountains and all the beautiful scenery. Appreciate, but there's also all the fun things that they did. Went to the cafes and whatever they did, experienced the culture, all those kind of things, okay? Put them together, we get the whole picture of what the holiday was like, the trip was like. Is that right? Yeah? Could we say that's what Matthew and Luke's version gives us?
We could.
Could we say that?
We could.
Yeah?
We could.
Gives us different perspective of the same thing, okay? To build up the same picture, okay? All right. Any other points? Anything else before we finish? Wow, it's 12 o'clock and we're finishing. That is amazing. That has never happened in the years I've been doing this Bible study. We finish at 12. I don't push it. I'm going to have to write this in my journal. Stay with it. Okay. Can you turn your court list to page number 41, please? It's probably the people online are probably not very happy because they tuned in late and they're probably thinking, oh, God, we could have done with more of this. But I'm sorry, that's the way it goes. Reflect on it, page 41. Are you there? I shall read and then we'll finish. Reflect on it. Luke is a Gentile writing to a Greek audience. It's no surprise that he highlights the busy day of ministry and prompted the Sermon on the Mount, including masses of people seeking healing. Luke is a physician, Colossians 4:14, which explains not only his penchant for details, but also his portrayal of Jesus as the great physician. Lofty as these teachings are, they come from the heart of one who cares deeply about our brokenness and pain. Okay, thank you very much for your cooperation. Next week, lesson 12, what if Jesus was serious? Okay, what if Jesus was serious? So a study to show yourself approved unto God and come with something to contribute, and we'll have a wonderful lesson. Thank you once again. I hand the lesson over to the moderator in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Brother Danny, for taking us through another